All right, welcome everyone. It's got the team of Tolkien Guide scribes here. We're looking to celebrate having our guide to Tolkien's letters live now for a year. It's been quite an exciting year for our guide. Hopefully, it's been helpful to all of you who are uh, being able to use it. And we wanted to take a look at the progress that we've made over the year and what's going to be coming up for us, and just generally talk Tolkien and his letters and guides and collecting and a whole bunch of other things as we go through today. So yeah, we launched, 364 days ago. It's actually June 9th, I think, of last year that we did our live stream launch, but close enough
Yeah, that would
for our
do.
purposes.
That would do.
Yeah, what's one day? Come on.
That would do.
Yeah, and we did on the trail. Just checked for me, when we were at what 1,072 letters total in the guide when we launched. I think I remembered that number correctly. And right
Correct.
now, at this moment, we have in the public guide we have 1,999. So a little bit later, I'll unembargo the 2000th letter, and we'll talk about that one a little bit. We'll go through some of our favorite additions to the guide that we've made over this year. We'll talk a little bit about our embargoing process, part of our editorial process, to make sure each letter is ready to go live, and what we have queued up. I want to say we have almost 200 queued up in the embargo queue right now. So there'll be a flood of those coming
Yeah.
in the next weeks or so.
It's probably going to
Plus
be about
new ones.
150 or
Yeah,
new ones coming out fairly shortly.
And
absolutely.
21 letters that we have in varying degrees in the guide already, but there will be 21 Tolkien letters to Donald Swan coming up for auction at Sotheby's, which is exciting. We'll be able to put more details into those, and it's growing all the time.
It is. It is. Yeah, I know we've had scholarly articles show up with new letters from archives in recent months, personal collections. We have showing up, people finding letters that were sent to their parents, etc. So there's a steady trickle of absolutely new letters that no one was aware of, and then there's filling out the guide. In this past year, we've had the photocopies that I acquired from the Blackwell's press kit. So we were able to fill out some details on known letters. They've been in Carpenter's.
Oh yeah, that was a good day.
But seeing the unedited handwritten letters and being able to compare that to see what Carpenter did was fascinating. We're able to share some of that with you guys
And
this past
those
year.
those letters that nobody that we get from like Tolkien had written to like a parent or like a grandparent or something that nobody had ever heard of before. Those are always the best too, because those
Yes.
are just completely out of the blue.
Absolutely. So yeah, I love this project. It's been a big learning experience for me on how to build the guide in the website so that we could have a usable tool for the four of us to be able to edit. And so yeah, we've taken the learning experiences from that, and part of what we'll show you today is new guides that we're developing. They're not ready to launch yet, but we can show you a preview of what we're starting to poke at and how they will all interconnect. We've got people coming, so having a biography page for each person who wrote a letter or received a letter with additional information on them. On the trail, Phil is working on bibliography, so an updated group crowdsourced bibliography. So we'll have multiple editors able to get this in there for tracking Tolkien's publications, kind of modernize how those are tracked. And then the archives. So we want to have a guide that specifically helps people understand where these letters are and how researchers can get access to them and what those holdings are. So if you're visiting a particular library or archive, you can quickly see what's Tolkien related in their holdings and work from there. So we've got a lot of exciting stuff to get to today. why don't do we want to start with letter 2000? Shall I go ahead and
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, let's do that.
So yeah, this is our guide. You'll see down here the all letters 1999. So let me go put that one in there and refresh the screen. So all letters is now 2000.
2000.
All right.
I know. And so the one I just unembargoed is here. It's the recent additions to the guide just popped up. So this one was Trotter. That was you who was working on it, correct?
I think so. This one was from the it's from the KES, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, Phil actually and various other people discovered that a lot of these their information was available in much better quality than we'd had in the past. And bits were missing, weren't they, Phil, in the past? So not everything was available from some of these old magazines.
Many of the people watching will know that for a long time there were various articles of Tolkien floating around the internet. One of them, for instance, was missing page 44 of the Debating Society report, and that is now in there. It's not just Tolkien as well. Just sticking to the KES archives for a moment, Arthur is in there too. They wish Arthur well in his move to Bloemfontein, which is really nice. Details there and some closer datings and various things. And I'm in touch with the old Edwardians Society, who have an online presence. It's private at the moment, but they've allowed me access, and they're looking through their records. They're trying to find whether some of the papers that Arthur read at societies are available if they exist. So it's really exciting. The work they've done on the archive there is fantastic, and having the old Edwardian Gazette and the Chronicle available now for everybody to read. Of course, it includes Tolkien's first published poem, The Battle of the Eastern Fields, which is a epic setting of a rugby match, which is rather hilarious and wonderful to read. And now it's available for everybody to read. And you'll see that a little later. It's one of the earliest. We have very few items in the bibliography so far, but I have started at the earliest point. So you'll see that there as well, and the link to it is available now. In fact, we'll post a link to their archives. It's very exciting. It's a new addition to their website, which was previously very scarce what was on there, but now they've made a real effort to update it, which is fantastic. They started in November last year.
Oh yeah, when you found it and we started digging through it, theoretically,
and we crashed the site.
We crashed the site.
Yeah, we did.
Sure, it was up. It was fantastic. Yeah. So for the letters that were in the King Edward School archives that we have, you'll find references to the issues that they put online, the PDF files. We thought it would be fun to show one of those issues since they published it and it's online. We can show, that there's actual letters that they've reproduced over the years. This was from the 2003 issue of the Gazette. So it's a great resource. The contents of these archives going back into the 1800s. So we can see Tolkien's articles that he wrote, as you mentioned, his father being mentioned in there. And then after his passing in the late 90s and the 2000s, old students who had known Tolkien or had talked with him are writing back with their memories and sometimes sending in copies of their letters so that they could be shared. So it's been a fantastic resource that they've updated that to really be able to fill out some additional details that people like Wayne and Christina and John Garth have done a lot of digging through old archives to find originally, and now that they're starting to show up online, a lot more people can go in and maybe discover even more little tidbits that haven't been documented or published before. So it's a great resource. I'm really liking that.
I'm sure it will add to the mountain of updates for Wayne and Christina, which
Absolutely.
they have said themselves there are a lot of updates to do. Obviously, newly published letters and various information that's turned up, and they've been working on their poetry book, which is very exciting. But of course, it means that their own poetry book is going to update the chronology and reader's guide quite a lot too. So, and this will add to it as well. There's some great tidbits in there, and more generally, reading what the men of that generation were interested in and what their thoughts were is fascinating. Reading the debating reports is almost Monty Python-esque. I feel like the King Edward School Debating Society was actually the first instance of Monty Python's flying circus. It's hilarious at times. They take themselves very seriously on things that most people now wouldn't. But they really enjoyed it, and it's fascinating to read in, not just the reports that Tolkien was involved in, but all of the reports I've been reading through are fascinating, hilarious, sometimes quite touching, and very topical at the time and the things that they were interested in. It's really, really fascinating.
Absolutely. I agree. So yeah, we're officially at 2,000 letters. We have in our editorial queue, we call them embargoes, but we have queued up 150 or so additional that are in process between us. And I know that we have, I'm going to grossly estimate here at about 1,000 more that we haven't that aren't in the guide yet. They're not they're not typed in.
Don't say that number out loud, Jeremy.
There's a lot more coming. So in our second anniversary, we'll see where we're at. I don't think we'll double again in the next year, but we'll have significant entries added, and
we are finding new ones all the time as well.
Yeah, we are.
The important thing. New ones just turn up, like the Donald Swan letters. Now, some of those I think we might know about a bit about that the letter exists, but we don't know what's in it until now. So I think stuff like this is turning up.
Yeah, it seems like
great.
It seems like weekly new letters turn up almost.
Yeah.
And it's not always new entries themselves.
No, it's filling things out and shooting. Yeah,
that constitute a new letter. Sometimes we have a stub where I have entered a letter from that's only mentioned in chronology, for instance, and for various reasons there is no mention of the real detail. There's not a lot of meat there. And then later on we find the letter comes up for auction, or we're lucky enough to be in contact with an archive and we find that letter. If anyone's taken side bets on where we'll be in another year, I'm of the school that believes that we will not double again, but I think we will be at 3,000 come the same time next year. So anyone that wants to take a side bet,
I don't think I'd take that bet. I think we're pretty sure we're going to be on that. Yeah,
that would be awesome if we're at 3,000. I mean, with the pace that new things are coming in, like Phil said, not all of them are brand new entries. Some of it is, filling out things that we maybe have missing components. But I don't know if I want to take that bet, Phil, but I definitely could see it. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of them are the Carpenter letters actually finding the whole of the letter to a certain degree, because I'm quite interested in what they left out as well, and it's actually quite nice to have a look and see why some bits weren't in there.
Yeah.
Which we're able to do. We're actually able to look at that.
Yeah, and I think it's a good time to mention that there's enough material already. If you look at the green bar that I'm showing on screen, so we do a weekly update on the statistics for our guide. So this is from mid last week. It doesn't have the 2,000th letter we just added now, but you see we have in the partial and complete transcripts we're at about 1,300, 1,400 letters, and Carpenter's sitting around 500 or so. So there's plenty of material here for a new book. If I could nudge HarperCollins a little bit to say
more than enough.
And some of them are really, really interesting letters that I
Absolutely.
think people would love to read.
Lots of Middle Earth material that's unpublished there. Tolkien musing on different legendarium topics.
We could
It does
supply
need a good editor, though. It does.
with
It
enough
will need
letters.
a good editor.
Yeah,
That's important.
Before we move on, now that the guys have stated that they won't take the bet,
No, we won't.
let me.
I will tell everyone that I have 250, approximately 250 letter details to add just of Pauline Baines, still to go into the guide, and that's 1/4 of 1,000.
You didn't give me all the information, Bill.
Yeah, well,
he had an ace up his sleeve there. So
yeah, he did.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about new materials coming. Or new tools that we're building out on the site. This code I just pushed up, and it's only accessible to the 4 of us currently, but it'll be quickly launched to the public, and we'll go into how the editing process is going to work a tiny bit. But this is experimental and pre-launch. We're giving you a little bit of a beta experience here. For us, when we're in the guide, if a letter from or to is known and we've written a biography on it, there's now a link to come into our guide for archives. This is our people guide. So we've just started populating 2 or 3 from the family. Tolkien, we're still working on drafting and materials for the biography itself. Bibliography recommended reading isn't linked out yet, but this will go to all of the book pages so that you can figure out editions and what's in print and ISBNs and
this one's obviously going to be the most important person in our person guide.
Yep. It is person number 1.
Yeah,
this is person number 1.
Exactly. So yeah, but it's actually a guide itself. So the people, again, we're just starting to populate this out. We're still going through images that we're going to be using and what's allowed. We're very cognizant of copyright and ownership of those. So we've got some placeholders in for this beta, but that will be filled out appropriately as we build these guides. You'll see these are just slowly starting to be populated as we exercise the tool set for this tools. They're cross-linked, and these will be automatically populated into the letters guide as we fill out the biographies that you can get to and from them from the letters very quickly for the people guide. So that's one of the things that's coming. We're excited about that. If we go 1 level up, you'll see the people here. We had letters. Books is a stub. That's something Chad's going to talk about momentarily. We can show archives. This was something else. So for each of the letters, and then as we get into further guides to books and collectibles, those will be cross-linked as well. The idea here is to know, okay, we know this letter is held in the Bodleian Library archives. What does that mean? Who are they? How can I contact them? Can I look at this letter? What's the process? So the idea here specifically for archives is to have information relating to the exhibitions, what was shown and when, what materials are held there, and contact information to be able to make inquiries, to do research if you're a scholar. And then I'm going to pop this up actually because it's a good question. Let's pull up this. Places beyond just archives, absolutely. I think it would be interesting in the sense of like biographies for people to have, the schools he went to, the cities he lived in, to have all of those populated and cross-linked. I know that James at Digital Tolkien and his team, of which many of us are also part of that team, is working on a tool for doing this population for text and digital text extensions. So we're collaborating closely to try and get these all connected to really have, you know, a mesh of information that's accessible and ordered and usable by fans and scholars and researchers and collectors to pull all of this into an easy to find infrastructure so you can quickly understand. And one of the nice things about the archives is, and I know Andrew has already done this once or twice, is, you know, oh, I'm going to be at the library in London, what do they have? Like, what should I be asking to look for? And so being able to reverse search of saying, I'm going to be at a place, what should I try and look at while I'm there is...
Yeah, Trotter gets
That's a challenge at the moment. It really
Trotter
is.
gets to go to all the good places, by the way.
Well, I went to the University of London, and I went to one archive and looked at a Tolkien letter, and then I found out there's another archive there which I didn't know about, and they've got some Tolkien letters. So I could have gone at the same time, and this is the sort of thing that this is going to end up helping with. If you want to go, it's to know what, ideally, what is at certain places and what you can see and how to get there, and where they are, if they've got more than one archive in a certain place. So it will make it a lot easier to find things, I think, in the
Absolutely.
in the future.
It will also enable visiting scholars to narrow down as well. Lots of people have said to me, I find navigating different archives or websites complicated because some of them are quite straightforward, like Marquetta, and other archives that we've been working on, they have those typical academic ways of listing everything and branching off, and something's in this folder with a long list of descriptions. Some people
the system's old and antiquated, and it's not easy to use.
Well, they're all different. They're all do them themselves, and they're all different.
Yeah.
Exactly, and this isn't to replace their systems, but this is to complement.
It's to help. It's to help you find.
So exactly. So once we have built out the systems and we've joined them up, a visiting scholar or just somebody on a day trip to an area can look and say, right, okay, what Tolkien letters are at such and such an archive, and then they'll be able to use the letters guide to be able to narrow down to that archive, to that subject. So if they're not interested in Tolkien's academic life, and there are letters that only deal with Tolkien's academic life, they can exclude those. So if they only have half a day and they want to see as many letters as possible, and they have to ask for, you know, X, Y, Z beforehand, they can have a list ready that will save them time, allow them to focus in more closely on their area of interest. That's the idea behind it, and make a unified listing of archives. So once we've kitted out all of the basic details and we start adding in data to the letters, that data will cross-pollinate with archives, etc., and hopefully make life easier for people to be able to see these letters.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, so each of these new guides, as we're adding them in, get their own set of permissions. So we have a read permission, an editor position, and an admin permission. Editors, I wanted to make the point right now that it's easy to add people to those groups, and so it is not meant to just be the four of us or a set fixed small individual or small team that's working on each of these. There's so much expertise out there beyond us and the regulars that you see editing entries in here. The goal and the plan and the architecture of the system is to add you, the people who are watching this and listening, to go through a process to get enabled as an editor for a particular guide. So if you want to start writing biographies of the people, or you want to sign up to volunteer to help with the bibliography, this is all possible. And we will be launching, as we mentioned earlier, new guides. So I'm itching to go through my old wiki style fanzine guide that's currently on the site and turn that into this new structure where it's searchable and cross-referenceable and able to link up. There's a lot of letters that are in fanzines, and it's kind of clunky what we've been doing this first year or so just to note where they are, but to actually have a cross-link into a fanzine database and see that issue and see where it's held and be able to get access to it. That's going to be important. So adding that guide is on our queue, and adding reviews of Tolkien's works and interviews that he's done. All of those will be coming. I gave a demonstration to these three just before we went live of adding on the development server of how long it takes me to create a new guide in here, and it was under a minute. It's designed to
Surprisingly
be
fast.
extensible, to change the structure. Phil was asking me to add another field to the bibliography, and that literally takes seconds for me to do when he decides that each entry should have another piece of information on it. So this is designed to be living and growing and supported by the community. For example, Ian's just volunteered. I know you're a regular on the site, so yeah, absolutely.
Hey, we got our first volunteer. Awesome.
It's working. It's haha.
I suspect we will actually do a video, another live stream like this when we actually are looking for editors, and we'll actually talk about what we're looking for in terms of that, and and how you're going to, or might do a demonstration on how you add something just so people can see how to do it. But yeah, the more people the better, because one of the things that I'm always been very conscious of is some of the great websites like Tolkien Books, both the US and the UK version of them. It was just been one person doing it, and so ultimately you can't. It's just too much to do for one person.
Yeah, and they get overwhelmed, or
they're overwhelmed,
break, and
then they stop doing it. So we want to have a system where you're not going to get overwhelmed. We'd hope to get some more people in in to do it, and we won't stop because we're going to always have people, hopefully available to actually carry on editing it.
Yeah, we quickly realized, I think, in the first few weeks or months that we were working on letters, and then we started talking about branching out to book guide, bibliography, all the things that we talked about on this video. We quickly realized that it's not only is it too much for one person to do, it's too much for 4 people to do as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, one of the other things as well is it doesn't really, I don't think it works that well if you just do this by yourself, because you need, everything has to be reviewed, which is what we do for the letters, and we're going to talk about that at some point. But because you're going to make mistakes, and if somebody else looks at it, then they find these and change them, and they say, well, it might be better if you wrote it like this. So it has to be done, I think, as more than one person. I don't think you get as good an outcome if you try and do it by yourself as if you get a community helping. We've got a community, so we may as well use it. That's what we want to do.
Yeah. And I just had another comment up there for the breadth of what people are interested in is massive. And so finding people who are passionate about Tom Bombadil dolls versus, fanzines versus letters, etc. It's almost infinite when you get to that level of what people are interested in. And so having a place where it can be tracked and grow and enhance what's already out there, right? We don't want to absorb and replace everybody else's efforts. We want to help us site visitors find those. If TolkienBooks.net has awesome resources and articles and a collection of books that are out there, so we need to funnel people there, make sure they know the site exists, and
we'll be pointing towards that information as well.
Exactly.
Definitely.
And so but daily when I'm on Facebook and people are asking questions and you're like, oh, you're trying to figure out which edition you have, it's here on tolkienbooks.net. And they're like, I had no idea that site existed. It's like, it's tools that have been around for decades are hard to find, especially with the current state of how search works, on the web. And so building the network to make people aware of everything that's out there, whether it's other websites or other collector blogs or archives, homepages, etc., is important. And that's one of the values that we want to embed in this, is to help people find the information and find the experts and find what they're looking for more quickly and easily. So it's going to be big, which is why it's taken a year or so to go from one hard-coded guide to the infrastructure now to hopefully have as many guides as we want, and to have people who are passionate become editors and start putting information in to collect and this information, not just collect the items themselves, but to share that passion and help others who are interested. So
the letters was a sort of proof of concept in a way.
Mm-hmm.
When we started the letters, we started very, very early on talking about other guides and other ways to improve TCG and help people navigate to different areas they're interested in. It's part of why the bibliography is being born. The websites out there, there's many of them, and brilliant websites. The Tolkien Society website, Tolkien Gateway, TolkienBooks.net, US, etc., etc. There's lots of them, and as Trotter said, traditionally these websites used one person or a couple of people to keep these things updated. The Foradrim bibliography of Tolkien is enormous. It's the biggest of all of them, but unfortunately, of course, one person worked on it, and at some point they stopped. So the idea behind this is bringing all of that information into one place and giving attribution to those websites, linking to them so people can still go and see where these pieces of information were first gathered, is very important. But having them all in one place, where hopefully if one of us drops off the edge of the planet, somebody else can jump in and carry these things on in a unified way, that means that the bibliography and the archives and everything else will continue to evolve and grow over time with a group of people who are all as passionate. And of course, it takes the weight off. The four of us have been working on the letters guide for more than 2 years now. And the other guys will say themselves, sometimes you put the books down, you close the laptop, you turn the computer off and just think, oh, I need a day off. You have to just take some, 5 minutes to breathe. And I had it not long ago working on signed hobbits and their correspondence. I'm tracking where all of the different author copies of The Hobbit have ended up at that time. A lot of them, of course, come up now for sale. But there came a point where I just thought, there's too many hobbits. I've had enough of the word hobbit. I just have to take a break. I have to stop. And
there's never too many hobbits.
You can never have too many hobbits, Bill. Come on.
You can't have that. I'm sorry, Phil. You can't have too many hobbits. Never too many.
I think I'm getting fired by Trotter here.
Yeah, you are. Yeah. Comments like that are not allowed. They're completely banned.
So, Phil, do you know if there is a trotter of author copies of The Hobbit? That's sort of an in-joke we were comparing.
Yeah.
A trotter is a unit of measure, which is, 100 hobbits, I think?
100, yeah. How many trotters is that? It's
the rest of us have like 1 or 2% of a trotter hobbit.
It's when you have so many, you no longer want to count them individually. You want to count them by sets of 100.
Yeah, of course there has been a discovery recently of a Tolkien collection that has kind of knocked everyone's socks off, and I must say I'm very impressed with Trotter for not spitting his dummy out when seeing pictures of all of these hobbits. It must have been very upsetting to see so many in another place, Andrew.
Well, he was off camera, so you didn't actually.
Yeah, he didn't see. Well, I would say that the one thing I'm very pleased to see, which we mentioned it earlier, is stuff like the Donald Swan auction letters as well, because it brings me on to a point that I would like to bring up. Is realistically, we try and look for auctions and archives. Again, we really would like help from people in identifying letters or places to go and look. Carl Hosted has been very helpful this week in actually giving us some information
He has.
that we didn't know about.
All year long, not just this week.
But this week in particular, he's given us a lot of stuff to put in.
Carl's just generally helpful for most things.
And I would really like to people to have a think about are there areas that they might know about for Tolkien letters that we don't know. As an example, you might have some old auction catalogues. Well, if you have a look and see if there's any Tolkien letters in there, because they might be ones that we don't know about. And if you find them, we'd love to know and actually add them to the guide. The same if you can think of an archive that, say, one of Tolkien's colleagues or a peer was at. Say that if somebody in Australia, an example, and the university that he was at has an archive of their letters. Well, that would be great. There might be some letters I'm talking in there. We just don't know. So it's things like that. If you know about any things like this, please have a look, and we'll be very happy to find out more information, because we don't know everything about these. And the more that people can help us, the better it is for our letters guide.
Yeah, and we, as Jeremy said earlier, we are, we're expanding all the time. Letters is growing all the time. So, when we fill out, when we find new information, we fill out entries that already exist, and we're adding new entries. We're also, Phil's done a lot of great work on the bibliography so far. We have the people guide that's being started. The book guide is coming as well. That's going to be very, very extensive. We all know of all the great book resources that are available online. TolkienBooks.net, US are the ones that people cite the most, but there's others. There's even, I know Jeremy, remember we collected one that went offline, but we collected all the data before it went offline, so we've got that. The book guide is going to be, the bibliography is works that Tolkien has published and first appearances, things like that. But the book guide is going to be, it's going to be TolkienBooks.net, TolkienBooks.us. We're very much standing on the shoulders of giants there with those two websites. But the goal with the book guide is to have thousands of entries, covers, editions, volumes, and that's going to be a massive, massive project that we're going to need a lot of help with. And so when all four of us at one point I think on this live stream have said that we need help and we need volunteers, we definitely need volunteers and help with the book guide, because that's to get that complete. And obviously there's Tolkien books coming out all the time. Every year there's new publications coming out. And so that guide is always going to be continually updated on a regular basis. And so,
it will be our biggest guide by a long way. It's going to be much bigger, I think, than all of the others put together.
Yes.
So we're definitely going to need a lot of help with that. And also, I think hopefully it's something that people would be interested in helping with, because we're a collector's guide.
Yeah, and Tolkien books are that's obviously, everybody who frequents this site. You have niche things like board games and things like that, and those are interesting. But I think everybody to a certain extent is interested in the book aspect of collecting. So we're hoping to get volunteers for that. I think, as I think we will. But our goal for the book guide is it to be a one-stop shop for anything that you want to find in terms of when you're trying to build your collection, covers, editions, volumes, printings, all of that stuff that people always have questions about.
Like where else to look for information about.
Right, and where else to look. Like Jeremy was talking about, when you're on social media and people saying, I don't know what this is, or I'm looking for this. That's the goal of our book guide, is to be somewhere where people can come and for it to be easily accessible and easy to use. So that's the goal with that, and we're just starting that. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to say that I won't be working on that with the guys. I wish them.
Oh, come on, Phil.
A lot. I wish them a lot of luck. I'll be focusing more on the bibliography. Of course, I will help wherever I can. But it's not
Yeah,
where my expertise lay or my
Mm-hmm.
interests. I'm not a traditional collector as such. I'm more of a text collector than an edition collector. Although I love seeing them. The bibliography will be very different. Probably be, I would say, up to about 400 titles in all. And one of the aims of the bibliography will actually be to reunite Tolkien and some titles out there. As I said, the websites that are out there that have worked on bibliographies of Tolkien are brilliant. They are brilliant. But for one reason or another, there isn't a single one of them that is complete. Some will probably by their criteria rightly eliminate certain volumes, and others will include them. And then there will be fall off where a website unfortunately ends for whatever reason. It could just be somebody loses interest or somebody passes on or whatever the reason might be. There are gaps in all of the established Tolkien bibliographies. So I will be taking all of them, collating and uniting all of the information together, linking to those websites naturally, and also I hope that in the end I will be able to reunite Tolkien with some publications that as yet are not known, but are out there freely available for pounds only. And these are titles where Tolkien helped at the proof stage or the review stage, or offered notes, for instance. And there is one, Saint Julien, by Simone Diardenne. Her volume, she freely notes that Tolkien should be a co-editor of that volume, but of course he's not, because it had to be published under her own name for her degree. And although it's noted elsewhere that he helped, we will be able to, through letters, provide evidence that actually this is an item that should be on the kind of Class A Tolkien bibliography list, and that's part of what it will be about. I will need help as I put certain titles in. I will be asking the community for information on book launches, on adverts and reviews and all those sorts of things. And reviews will be another section that will begin probably later on this year. I have somebody else from TCG who's very interested in that, Matt, who will be helping with that. Mm-hmm. In fact, he'll essentially be building it. He's remarkably knowledgeable. So there's so much that we're working on, and especially for the book guide. The guides really, really will need some help, because there will be thousands upon thousands of editions. It'll be far more work and far more complicated than a complete and ongoing Tolkien bibliography, which sounds crazy, but actually my side of this is fairly simple compared to the book guide. Their book guide will be extraordinarily long and painful.
Hopefully useful as well when it's finished.
Hopefully useful.
And, thanks for that pep talk, Phil.
And living. The underlying goal here for all of these is to be living guides, to have an editorial team that can grow, shrink, evolve over time. The idea of the structure of these guides is that they are living, and it's easy to add new fields and interconnect them as they live and breathe and grow. So the goal here is to have a tool, an underlying foundation for which the knowledge base which we all have individually can be combined and shared and breathe and grow as we learn more. To take individual passion and turn that into building blocks that other people can then leverage and grow off of. So we're not repeating other people's work, and so we're not ignoring what's already out there. So it's easier to find things, and it's easier to contribute. It's easier to be involved in this community, and to help it grow, and to not stagnate, and to to be able to transfer passion, in and out as you're interested to contribute, and as you're not interested to not have a blog just go stale and not be useful anymore. It's one of the difficulties of doing these guides, like the letters guide. There's new letters being found, and so it has to constantly evolve and grow. And book editions, as Mr. Underhill mentioned, there's primary Tolkien works. There's HarperCollins is putting out refreshed editions every year, and scholarly works and books there's dozens coming out every year, and there's significant ones that are important. And research, you see, like Dr. Femi putting out research articles that have unearthed letters, or able to share letters from the University of Glasgow archives that hadn't been documented before. And so there's all this new information surfacing, and if you're not hyper attentive to all of social media and all of these blogs, you might not notice it. And so having a place where they're noted and cross-referenced and made available is meant to be a useful tool for this ever-expanding knowledge base. So that's kind of our vision, and hopefully it comes through with what we've launched so far. And we have, as we've said, more coming. We're kind of teasing that a bit, but as this is our celebration for letters, I thought we might circle back just a little bit. I think we'll close out with sharing some interesting letters we wanted to talk about. But before we did that, I did want to, we've mentioned Carl Hostetter, we've mentioned a few other people. There's some archivists, Bill Fliss and Catherine McElwain, who have been very helpful for years now for us in these various projects. Our auction houses,
Wayne and Christina.
Yeah, Wayne and Christina.
Wayne and Christina. I think I said it when we launched, and I said it when we promoted the expanded Tolkien letters. Their commitment and their friendship and their help and their time it's nothing short of remarkable, and they're always patient with us in areas that to them is very much child's play, and we can get ourselves into a hell of a tiz sometimes, overthinking the details, and they just come back with a very calm couple of minutes later. Most of the time, of course, they've been very busy with the poems, but yeah, their help is remarkable. And also it goes back to getting help from the community. We are 4 people, and on our list of books to be cross-referenced is literally, no exaggeration, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And then when you throw journals into that equation, we are moving into thousands and thousands of things to be referenced and highlighted on different letters. So with that in mind, we have to say a big thanks to Tom Hillman, who has been sending me references to letters from articles and books and all sorts of interesting things. I get to then add them to the guide and take credit for them, because I add them, but of course the work is actually Tom Hillman's. So yeah, a huge.
Well, I think that's true, isn't it? On some of these times, it looks like it's just us entering the letters, but we're getting that from other people, and they're very kindly telling us about these things, and we're actually being able to add them.
Yeah, and there's also big thanks to HarperCollins and the estate too for publishing, for pulling the trigger and publishing the second volume of letters. I think that's helped the guide too. That's renewed sort of like the interest in Tolkien's letters a bit, and I think it's helped with interest in what we're doing on the site as well. So
it certainly has, and I'd love to find out how successful it's been. But just from a cursory point of view, I think it has been very successful, and it's also that they're all being used a lot by researchers.
Yes.
Already all these new letters are already being picked up and used, and almost straight away after they came out, which is great.
And we'll never stop lobbying for a volume 3 of letters.
No. Well, it'd be volume 2. Volume 1.
Yeah,
yeah.
It would be volume 2, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
If HarperCollins just want to take the financial gain from it, there's 4 of us here who happen to know an awful lot about letters and have a collection of them that we've transcribed over the years. We could very easily put together volume 2 and 3.
We can negotiate our rate later, Phil.
Well, surely that would be access to the archives. That would be our payment.
Yeah,
that'd be a pretty good payment.
Well, I think they will probably give us access to them anyway, though. So anyway,
well, they have.
They have given us access to it. Yes, they have. Yeah.
So some favorite letters. I'm going to bring up mine first. You guys, if you have a letter number, I'll queue it up in my screen just so we can share the public thing. But I wanted to touch on this one, which everybody's known about, existing since 1981 when Letters was first published. Tolkien received a letter from a German publisher, which is written in Loning Verlag, which I'm pronouncing horribly. My German is 30 years out of date. But so we've known about this since Carpenter published Tolkien's response to it, or one of his 2 responses. But in the photocopied stack of letters I got in the Blackwell's press kit, was this letter from the publisher, and I'm hopeful we can actually share this original letter at some point. It should be out of, possibly not in public domain yet, but it's from the 30s, and it's from a publisher, not from Tolkien himself. But the interesting thing I wanted to mention about this was in here, and I'll be publishing hopefully a lot more information soon on this, but in this letter they do say they are interested. It's pretty clear this is not the first letter. This is not out of the blue. They are responding to a conversation that's been going on for a while. And not only did they ask to confirm his Aryan descent, but they said that the partial translation that a friend of Tolkien's had done into German was not sufficient, and they wanted to choose a different translator. And so here's this little tidbit that Tolkien had asked, or possibly the Unwins had asked someone to translate The Hobbit into German in 1937. And so there's somewhere out there is a very early translation of a part of The Hobbit in German. And so that's being able to see that in this letter, knowing who did it will be coming soon. It's mentioned in this letter. We know who that was, but this is the joy of working on this letters guide is finding these little discoveries.
That probably exists somewhere as well. Still, the translation is probably might be in some archive somewhere, or it could be in one of the museums in Germany.
It's possible. It's
exists.
Difficult. I don't know if it'll be years before we can track down enough leads to know whether that exists or not. But yes, I think theoretically it is out there somewhere.
I did some research. Sorry, I did some research on this, and there are a number of letters missing from kind of public view, in part because in many respects, some of the archives of publishers and businesses of all different types became evidence in many respects in the late 40s into the 50s of lots of different things. So I think that some archives show lots of different things, and then there are other things that are kind of still a bit sensitive. And I'm sure that there'll be an archive of publishing material somewhere where this sits. This one is not sensitive in that respect, but of course a lot of these things could be swept up into other documents from one publisher. And they were one of them that were kind of swept up in the we'll call reforms of the time in Germany. But it's of course very interesting. One day we hope to read the other reply from Tolkien.
Yep.
As well.
If you bring up 162, that's an interesting. So this is how you can search for a letter. You can type the number in. We're going to look at So this letter, I really like this one because this is. I think Tolkien apologises for using a typewriter. Now, having looked at all of his letters for so long, apologising for using a typewriter, I think that's great. Him using a typewriter, they're so much easier to transcribe when he's used a typewriter. But amazingly enough, there's some more letters in this chain. He later on decided not to use a typewriter and actually wrote it, and they were quite hard to read. So he was quite right actually bringing this up. But I also like the fact that this brings up the new recording machine as well, which is it's absolutely great. The fact that George Sayer told him about this recording machine, and we've actually now got some recordings of The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, Beowulf, because he was so enamoured by this machine. And you just think if George Sayer hadn't given him this, we wouldn't really have audio recordings, so many that we've actually got. I wish he'd done more, but the fact that he's got any is really because he thought it was great. This, and I think people talk about Tolkien in terms of technology and say he didn't like technology very much. Well, he did when it helped him, and this just definitely helped him.
Absolutely.
Can I just say for a moment, this volume, the book is fantastic, but I was so impressed with the work that HarperCollins did to remaster that.
Oh, yeah.
Many of us had the original or have the original, and it's pretty poor. And the CD that they released with the deluxe edition is remarkable. I think people can listen to it on Audible as well.
Yeah, it sounds great. It's such an improvement over
really
the previous version.
Oh, and Tolkien going through and like making the sound effects of the wagon rolling and with his office furniture. Yeah.
Well, I remember on the first one though, I'm sure the phone rings and he ignores it because he was there by himself and there was nobody else there. He recorded it when it was quiet and there was nobody else in the house.
You can
so
hear
when the phone rings, nobody else is there to answer. Tolkien must have been going mad at this point, trying to do his recording.
You can hear the phone ring, and you can hear a bit of traffic.
Cars as well. You can cars drive past.
Yep.
Well, that's great.
Anybody else have a letter they want me to bring up on screen?
I'm not gonna talk about a letter per se. Okay, I'm just gonna mention there was two areas I was working on recently, and people can easily find them with tags. If they search on our tags for Arthur Tolkien, they'll find letters not just from Arthur but also from Mabel as well, Tolkien's mother. I really enjoyed learning a little bit about their life in Bloemfontein. My grandparents are from South Africa, and they always spoke about the heat and how horrible it was, etc., etc. But I was very pleased to read Mabel and Arthur's experience of their young life with two young children, and the life they were building there it's tinged with a little bit of sadness when we know what happened ultimately.
I think though that Arthur loved it in Africa, didn't he? He really loved it out there. It was where he wanted to go, and he did.
Yeah. Tolkien struggled with the heat, and they would often go to Cape Town, go to the coast for a bit of fresh air. But they would have friends come and stay for long stretches. They would have parties, and the boys would run around and make mischief, and it's just lovely. It's a lovely small selection of letters from Arthur and Mabel to home, to cousins and parents. And the other area, which was Italian translations, can be found in the tags as well. This was a brilliant thing to learn about transcribing all of the letters for the Italian catalogue that was recently released for their exhibition. Reading the letters between publishers and the reasoning that Italy had for not publishing the Lord of the Rings and things like that.
Yeah. No one in
It was-
Italy would like the Lord of the Rings. They don't. Italians don't
It was-
like it.
Yeah, it was.
You can't find
Great
any
comment
copies.
that was.
You can't find any
It
copies.
was well, exactly. It was really extraordinary to read, because I had no knowledge of Tolkien publishing in Italy. So this is another area, another thing about the guy. You know, we're not experts. We learn as we go on many different things, and Tolkien in Italy was one of them. And I got to the very end, you know, to find out did Arnaldo Mondadori publish the Lord of the Rings? No, they didn't, because you know the Lord of the Rings is too Scandinavian for them. We don't like that sort of stuff. Is kind of, you know, the result we got, and it was fascinating. So yeah, rather than letters, just areas, Italian translations, and Hilary and Arthur and Mabel Tolkien on the tags, and the summaries give a good look at what those letters hold, and a lot of them or some of them in Italian. We've translated those as well. Thanks to Alonzo Killy for help with some of the aspects on the exhibition on that. And one of my friends, Irendil, who helped as well, and another friend who doesn't want mentioning, but they're very private. But yeah, they helped with Italian translations as well. It's been great fun.
There was a lot of letters for them to go through, and they did it quite quickly. I was very impressed with that.
Absolutely.
So thank you for doing that.
Mr. Underhill, you have anything
horror
stories or memories you got from the past year?
Well, just real quick, some of the correspondence I wanted to highlight was, as we all know, Dick Ploss passed away this year, and I was looking through. We actually got some updates on the correspondence. Carl provided us with a few updates on the correspondence, and so I was just looking through the Dick Ploss correspondence, and I think if anybody who's gone through the letter guide and hasn't looked through that, there's some excellent things to read about in there, particularly letter number 784 and Carpenter letter 293A. We've had some updates to Tolkien. Kind of wrote to Dick and gave him some info on Quenya, and we've had a few updates on that since then. That's just one of the Dick Ploss correspondence letters that we have in the guide there, and so. I was reading through that this week, and I read through that this morning. It's very cool correspondence to read through if you haven't read through it. That's just what I wanted to highlight.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Go ahead, Phil. For those of you who haven't read the forum post on Dick, pay particular attention to the comment from Elfwine, Carl Hofstetter, about the importance of the of Dick and the declension, pointing out that at one point it was really the only thing they had to kind of glean information from, and it was extraordinarily important. Yeah, those letters are extraordinary. They really
are
fascinating.
Dick was a friend of ours.
He was.
He appeared on some live streams with us. He was very helpful, great man to know. And yeah, he shared with our letter guide the all of his letters. And so I'm still pushing on HarperCollins. When I first contacted them after Dick shared them with me, and I went and talked with the editors and said, there's a lot in these letters that Carpenter edited out. And the response, this was, a while back, was, we have a new edition coming out. It will have, that information that you're looking for. And then when the new revised expanded edition came out, they're still not all there. Like, there's still paragraphs that are fascinating to me. I did an Oxenwood paper on one of those paragraphs 2 years ago. So I'm still hopeful that these complete letters can be how would you expand upon an expanded letter? Re-expanded?
Yeah, it's a mega expansion.
The more than expanded letters of Tolkien. In any
Twice the
event,
expansion.
The letters are great. Dick was awesome. I'm very sad.
He was, yeah. And so he was on my mind, and so I decided to read through some of that correspondence, and it's truly enriching material.
Absolutely, yeah.
The stuff that they were discussing.
That's very true. Have we? I think we're close to wrapping up. This has
We
been
are.
a
I think
wonderful
we've covered
chat
everything.
with you guys. I hope you all have enjoyed this live stream. It is recorded. It will be available to review later for those of you who are joining us late, weren't able to make it here live. Please join us in the forums at Tolkien Guide with your comments, corrections to any of our guides, additions,
Yeah.
new guides that
Corrections
you'd
are
like to
welcome.
see. We're about to turn on the fire hose, I think, with what we're signing up for here. But yes, we will be looking for editors. We will be looking for contributors. We're always very thankful for people to point out mistakes or missing information or new links or new material that's showing up in the marketplace that we haven't gotten to yet. It's all appreciated. We will continue to expand and hopefully enjoy this process of growing the letters guide, which we're celebrating today, but the entire guide to Tolkien's blanks. We're going to be filling in those blanks quite a bit in the coming weeks and months. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you. Huge thank you to everyone who's helped us this past year. It's been awesome. We couldn't do it.
Yes,
without
thank
all
you
of
so much.
Yes,
Thanks.
definitely.
Thanks, everybody.
And we
It
will see you
really is
again soon.
appreciated.